I always thought I knew everything about my wife, Emma. Her quirks, her dreams, even the way she laughed at the dumbest jokes. But nothing prepared me for the words that came out of Mark's mouth that night. "She's only with you because I'm married," he said, his eyes locking onto mine like he was daring me to challenge him. My mind went numb. I looked at him, trying to make sense of what he'd just said, but all I could feel was a surge of anger. Mark, Emma's so-called best friend, had just dropped a bomb that threatened everything I thought I knew about my marriage. And in that moment, I knew I had two choices: walk away or confront the truth head-on. No more playing nice. I wasn't about to let him twist the narrative of my life. The truth was, Emma chose me, and I was going to show him exactly why. It was supposed to be a casual evening, a celebration of our 7th wedding anniversary. Emma and I had planned this party for weeks, inviting a mix of old friends and family to join us in a beautiful restaurant downtown. The atmosphere was warm, the air buzzing with laughter and clinking glasses, but amidst the chatter and toasts, something felt off to me. I looked across the room, watching Emma and Mark exchange one of their many inside jokes, and I couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that gnawed at me. They'd been friends for years, but lately, I'd noticed an intimacy between them that made me uncomfortable. It was subtle, the way they leaned in a little too close when they spoke, the way their laughter seemed to linger a second too long. I couldn't pinpoint when it started, but the tension had been building inside me, unnoticed until now. I tried to brush it off. After all, Mark had been a part of Emma's life long before I came along. He was just her best friend, right? The one who'd been there through thick and thin, a constant in her life while I was still figuring out my place. He'd even stood at our wedding, laughing with Emma like they were siblings, the kind of bond I had always respected, until now. As the night wore on, I played the part of the gracious husband, making small talk, refilling drinks, and ensuring everyone was having a good time. But deep down, I couldn't ignore the small voice in my head that kept whispering, "Something's not right." Then, just as the party was winding down, Mark pulled me aside, his words cutting through the ambient noise of the room. "She's only with you because I'm married," he said casually, his eyes narrowing in a way that made my heart skip a beat. I was too stunned to respond at first, just standing there, unsure of how to react. He smiled, as if the statement were a joke, but I could tell from the gleam in his eyes that he wasn't kidding. This wasn't just a passing remark. This was the truth as he saw it. And for the first time in our friendship, I realized that Mark had been harboring something more than just friendship for Emma all these years. My mind was racing, and all I could think of was, how could he say that? Emma was everything to me, my partner, my equal, my love. I had never doubted her loyalty, never questioned our bond. But now, Mark had planted a seed of doubt, one I wasn't sure I could shake. He wasn't just insinuating that Emma settled for me. No, he was implying that I was a placeholder, a second choice, someone she clung to because Mark wasn't available. And that made my blood boil. I couldn't let him get away with this. Not when I knew deep down that Emma had chosen me, not out of desperation, but because she loved me. As Mark turned to walk back to the group, I stood frozen for a moment, trying to process his words. But the anger was already rising in me, sharp and unyielding. This wasn't just a casual comment. This was an attack, and I wasn't going to let it slide. I was going to show him exactly why Emma had chosen me. I was going to shatter his delusions, once and for all. The days following Mark's comment felt like a slow, burning fire. Emma and I fell back into our routine after the anniversary party, but something had shifted between us. I noticed it the moment I got home after work. The way she greeted me, almost too casually, as though she hadn't just celebrated 7 years with me just days ago. It wasn't much, but the warmth that once filled our home seemed to be dimming. I told myself I was overthinking it. After all, we'd had great times together, hadn't we? But then, little things started to bug me. I would catch Emma laughing at something Mark had said, her eyes sparkling in a way that I couldn't ignore. She always had a deep affection for him. He was her oldest friend, someone who had been there through every high and low. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this time, it was more than just friendly affection. One evening, I decided to stay home and cook dinner instead of going out for a work event. I had this idea to surprise Emma with her favorite meal, hoping to rekindle some of the connection we'd shared when we first met. But as I set the table, I couldn't ignore the nagging voice in my head. My thoughts kept drifting back to Mark's words. "She's only with you because I'm married." It was around 7 p.m. when she walked in, her coat still on, a tired smile on her face. She looked good, like she always did, but I couldn't stop myself from asking, "How was your day?" My voice was casual, but I knew I was setting the stage for something more. I had to ask about Mark. I had to confront whatever it was that felt off. "Great," she said, glancing at the food. "This looks amazing, babe." But I wasn't focused on the dinner anymore. "Did Mark call you today?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral, even though I felt the edge creeping into my voice. Emma's smile faltered for just a second, but she quickly recovered. "Yeah, he did. Just checking in, like usual. I told him I'd be home late tonight." I didn't like that. I didn't like the like usual part. She had always been close to Mark, but I never thought it was anything more than a friendship. Now, though, I started to wonder if I'd been blind to something that had been happening right in front of me. "I see," I said, setting the plates down on the table. "You two talk a lot, huh?" "Yeah, well, he's one of my best friends." It's not a big deal, but I could tell it was a bigger deal than she was letting on. She could sense it too, the tension in my voice, the quiet questions hanging in the air between us. For the first time in a long time, she looked uncomfortable. I decided not to push further, not tonight. We ate dinner in silence, the clinking of utensils the only sound between us. I tried to ignore the storm brewing inside me, tried to focus on the smile on her face, the laughter we once shared. But it was hard, too hard, because Mark's words kept echoing in my mind. And worse, Emma's responses. The way she spoke about him, the casual way she mentioned him, felt like she was hiding something. Later that night, after we had cleaned up, Emma pulled me into our bedroom, kissing me softly on the lips. I should have been grateful, but instead I felt a pang of doubt. This wasn't just about Mark anymore. This was about how I had let things slip, how I hadn't been paying attention to the distance that had crept into our relationship. "Is everything okay, David?" Emma asked as she laid next to me in bed. Her voice was soft, but I could hear the concern underneath. "I'm fine," I lied, knowing she could see through me, just a little tired. But as I lay there, with her hand resting on my chest, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Mark wasn't just Emma's best friend anymore. He was something more, a shadow lurking in the corner of our marriage, and I wasn't sure how to make him disappear. It had been a week since Mark's words rattled through my mind like an incessant echo, and every day had felt like I was walking on a tightrope. One wrong move, and I knew I'd fall into the abyss of doubt, betrayal, and confusion. I couldn't pretend things were normal anymore. The subtle shift in Emma's demeanor, the way her eyes would linger on her phone when a message from Mark came through, it all ate at me. I had to know the truth, even if it meant destroying the fragile illusion of happiness I'd been clinging to. One evening, after dinner, I asked Emma to sit down with me. We were alone, the house quiet, save for the soft hum of the refrigerator. I could feel the tension between us, like a thick fog that neither of us was willing to acknowledge. But tonight, I wasn't going to avoid it anymore. "Emma," I began, my voice unsteady despite my best efforts, "we need to talk." She looked at me, a flicker of concern passing across her face. "What's wrong? Is it about work?" "No," I said, shaking my head. "It's about Mark." The mention of his name made her stiffen. I saw the way her shoulders tensed, her hands instinctively folding together in her lap. I hated that I was doing this, but I had no other choice. "Why does he always seem so close to you?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral, but I couldn't help the edge creeping in. "It's not just the jokes or the random texts. I feel like there's something more." Emma hesitated, biting her lip, clearly weighing her words. Finally, she spoke, her voice low, almost apologetic. "David, he's been in my life for a long time. He's always been there for me." "I know that," I replied, frustration leaking through my calm exterior. "But there's something else, Emma. Lately, it feels like he's always in the picture, and I'm starting to feel like I'm just here because you don't have him." The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Emma avoided my gaze, her fingers nervously twisting a strand of her hair. David, you're being paranoid. Mark is just a friend. Just a friend. I repeated, my voice rising despite myself. I'm sorry, but it doesn't feel like that. You've been texting him non-stop, spending time with him, and every time I bring it up, you brush it off like it's nothing. I'm tired of pretending it doesn't bother me. Emma's eyes flicked up to meet mine, and for the first time in a while, I saw a flicker of uncertainty there. She exhaled slowly, as if debating whether to share something she had been holding back. You're right, she said quietly, her voice almost too soft to hear. Mark and I, we've always had a special bond. It's hard to explain, but we've been through a lot together. He's someone I trust, someone I've always leaned on. And I guess I didn't realize how much of that I was relying on even now. I swallowed hard, trying to process her words. There was something about the way she said it, the way she seemed almost detached from what she was saying, that sent a chill through me. It wasn't just a friendship, it was something deeper, more complex. I felt a sickening knot form in my stomach. Is that why you're with me, Emma? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Because you can't have him. She didn't answer right away. The room felt like it was closing in on me as I waited for her to speak, my heart pounding in my chest. When she finally did, her words were slow, measured. David? No, she said, her eyes welling up with tears. I love you. I chose you. But sometimes when things have been hard between us, Mark was there. I never meant for it to hurt you. I never wanted you to feel like you were second choice. There it was. The truth. It wasn't exactly what I had feared, but it was worse in its own way. Emma hadn't been with me because I was the one she wanted. She had been with me because I was the next best thing. A safe choice. A fallback. I tried to speak, but the words got caught in my throat. The anger I'd felt toward Mark suddenly shifted toward Emma. This wasn't just about her relationship with him. This was about her not trusting me enough to come to me with her feelings. This was about her emotional need for Mark, a need that had crept into our marriage like a slow poison, eroding the foundation we had built. I never wanted to feel like I was competing with him. I finally managed to say, my voice strained. But here we are, Emma. I'm not just your husband anymore. I'm just a guy filling in the gaps where he's not. Her face crumpled, and the tears she had been holding back finally spilled over. David, I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I didn't see it until now, but I know I've been selfish. I should have been open with you about all of this, but I didn't want to lose you. You already have, I said, my voice colder than I meant. You've already lost me. The days following that conversation with Emma were some of the darkest I had ever faced. I walked around in a fog, my thoughts consumed by the words we had exchanged. I love you. I chose you. But those words felt hollow now. I couldn't escape the nagging doubt that Mark had been right all along. Emma wasn't with me because she wanted to be, but because she didn't have him, and that realization cut deeper than I ever imagined it would. But it wasn't just about Emma anymore. It was about Mark too. The bastard had planted a seed in my mind, and now it was growing wild, strangling everything I thought I knew. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I needed to confront him. I had to know if he truly believed what he'd said, and more importantly, I had to make him understand that I wasn't going to let him ruin my marriage. I arranged to meet Mark in a quiet bar down the street from our apartment. It was one of those places with low lighting and quiet jazz playing in the background, perfect for a conversation no one wanted to overhear. As soon as I walked in, I spotted him sitting at the far end, his back to me, nursing a drink. His posture was relaxed, like he had no idea what was coming. I walked over, pulling out the chair across from him. He looked up, his lips curling into a smirk. David, he greeted me with a knowing tone. Didn't think you'd actually show up. I figured you'd run back to Emma, all hurt and confused. I didn't waste any time. I leaned forward, my fists clenched on the table. What the hell did you mean by what you said that night? My voice was low, but the anger inside me surged like wildfire. Mark didn't flinch. Instead, he took another sip of his drink like he was savoring the moment. You know exactly what I meant, he said, his voice casual, almost bored. Emma's only with you because I'm married. You were just a placeholder, a rebound. She's been hanging on to the idea of me for years. When I moved on, she latched onto you. You're her second choice. His words hit me like a punch in the gut, but I forced myself to stay calm. You really think that? You think she's only with me because of you? Mark leaned back in his chair, eyes glinting with the satisfaction of someone who believes they hold all the cards. I know it. She's never gotten over me. She'll never tell you that, but she's always been in love with the idea of us. She needed you to fill the void. And that's why she's so damn attached to me even now. She's never really let go. I wanted to reach across the table and punch him in the face, but instead, I took a deep breath, forcing myself to keep control. You're wrong, I said through gritted teeth. Emma chose me because I'm the one who loves her, the one who's been there for her through everything. You think you know her better than I do. You don't know anything about us. Mark's smirk faltered for a second, but he quickly recovered. You're delusional, man. Emma's always had her sights set on me. You're just the consolation prize. She never wanted to be with someone who wasn't me. You're just a placeholder in her life, and you always will be. The truth of his words was like a knife twisting in my gut, but I wasn't going to let him see that it hurt. I'm not her consolation prize, Mark, I said, my voice steady but forceful. I'm the man she chose. I'm the one she's built a life with. And I'll be damned if I let you walk in here and tell me otherwise. You're the one living in a fantasy. I'm the one who's real. Mark's face hardened, his eyes narrowing in frustration. You're living a lie, David. Wake up. You're not the one she really wants. And one day, she'll realize that. Just like I realized it years ago. That was the breaking point. All the anger, all the frustration finally boiled over. I stood up, slamming my hands onto the table, my voice rising. You're wrong, Mark. Emma chose me because I'm the one who treats her right. I'm the one who loves her for who she is, not some fantasy of what she could have had with you. You're the one who needs to face reality. She's with me, not you. And she always will be. For a moment, Mark just stared at me, his face a mix of disbelief and disdain. I could tell he wasn't used to being challenged like this. But I wasn't going to back down. Not this time. You think you know everything about Emma, I continued, my voice dripping with contempt. You have no idea what it's like to be with her, to have a real relationship with her. You never did, and you never will. Mark stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. He took a step toward me, his face red with anger. You don't know shit about what she really wants, David. You'll see. One day she'll come back to me. I didn't let him finish. No, she won't, because she's already made her choice. And it's me, not you. So get that through your head. This ends now. Mark's eyes flickered with a mix of anger and defeat, and for a moment, I thought he might lash out. But instead, he turned and walked out of the bar, leaving me standing there, my heart pounding in my chest. The room felt suddenly colder without him. I was shaking, adrenaline coursing through me. I'd confronted him, stood my ground, and told him the truth. But even as I left the bar and walked into the night air, I couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was just beginning. The aftermath of my confrontation with Mark didn't come with a sense of victory, but rather a heavy weight I couldn't shake. I had said what needed to be said, stood up for my marriage, and proved to Mark that I wasn't going to let him manipulate the situation. But as I lay in bed that night, Emma's words echoed in my mind, and I found myself staring at the ceiling, the uncertainty gnawing at me. I love you. I chose you. But did she? Or had I just been the next best thing, the guy who was available when Mark moved on? As much as I wanted to believe in her, to believe in us, the cracks that Mark had exposed seemed to widen every time I thought about it. Over the next few days, I couldn't shake the unease that had settled deep in my gut. Emma and I didn't talk about the confrontation. She pretended like everything was fine, giving me that same distant smile I had become all too familiar with. I could tell she was trying to avoid the tension, but the weight between us was palpable. I noticed small things. The way she pulled away when I reached for her hand on the couch. The way she would smile at her phone when a message from Mark came through. Just a little too quick, just a little too careful. There was something in her eyes, a hesitation, like she was walking on eggshells around me. And the worst part, I wasn't sure if it was because she was afraid of what I might say, or if it was because she was keeping something from me. I couldn't stand it, the quiet, the distance. So I confronted her again. "Emma," I said one evening as we sat across from each other at the dinner table, "I need to talk to you. About Mark." Her expression faltered for a second, then quickly returned to its neutral mask. "David, I told you there's nothing to worry about. Mark and I are just friends. You know that." I pushed my chair back and stood up, my frustration bubbling over. "Friends. Just friends. You really expect me to believe that after everything that's happened?" Emma's eyes widened in surprise at my sudden outburst. She stood up too, her voice a little sharper than usual. "David, I told you. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not in love with Mark. He's just someone I've known for years. Then why is it that every time I turn around, you're texting him, or talking to him, or thinking about him?" "I've seen it, Emma. I'm not stupid." I paced the room, my hands clenched at my sides. "You don't get it. You don't see how much it hurts to know that the one person who should be choosing me, the one person I've built a life with, might not have ever fully chosen me." She stood there, silent for a moment, her face unreadable. And then, for the first time in a while, I saw something in her eyes. Vulnerability, maybe even regret. She took a slow breath, her voice quieter now. "I never wanted to hurt you, David, but I can't pretend that I didn't feel something for Mark. I did, once, maybe. Maybe I still do in some way. But it's not the same. Not like it used to be." That admission hit me harder than anything else. It wasn't just about Mark anymore. It was about Emma's lingering feelings. Feelings that had never truly gone away. Feelings she hadn't dealt with. And here I was, holding on to a marriage that felt like it was slipping through my fingers. "Then why are we still doing this?" I asked, my voice breaking slightly. "Why are we still pretending everything's okay when it's clearly not?" Emma looked down, her hands twisting together nervously. "Because I want it to be okay, David. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose what we have. But I also don't want to feel like I'm losing my best friend in the process." "Emma, you can't have both," I said, my voice rising. "You can't keep me around and let him keep holding a piece of you. That's not fair to me. It's not fair to us." She opened her mouth to say something, but stopped. Tears welled up in her eyes, and for a moment, I thought she might cry. But she didn't. She just stood there, shaking her head, her expression one of deep regret. "I don't know what to do, David. I never wanted this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. But now I don't know if I can fix it." I didn't know how to respond to that. The silence between us felt suffocating. I loved her. I always had. But was that enough anymore? Could I keep fighting for a marriage when the trust was broken and the cracks were already too deep? I stood there, staring at Emma, at the woman I thought I knew, wondering if there was anything left to salvage. She was right about one thing. We couldn't go on pretending everything was okay. But what came next? Was I going to walk away, or was I going to keep fighting for something that might never be the same again? It had been 2 weeks since Emma and I had that heated conversation, but the air between us was still thick with unspoken words and unresolved tension. We were going through the motions, pretending everything was fine, but the truth was that neither of us knew where we stood anymore. Every glance, every silence between us felt charged with a sense of betrayal, of something missing that we couldn't quite name. Emma tried to act normal. She went to work, she made dinner, she even smiled at me occasionally. But it wasn't the same. I could tell by the way she avoided my eyes when she spoke, or how she'd go out of her way to keep her phone out of my sight. Mark was still there, lurking in the background, even though I had confronted him. His presence never fully left, and I saw how Emma would tense up every time his name was mentioned. But it wasn't just Emma anymore. I was changing too. I had always been the calm one, the one who put the relationship first, who never let small doubts take over. But now I found myself watching her constantly. I would track her movements, where she went, who she was with, how long she was on her phone. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop. The seeds of doubt had been planted, and I wasn't sure how to pull them out. One evening after dinner, Emma went to the kitchen to clean up. I was sitting in the living room, mindlessly flipping through a magazine, but I wasn't really reading. I was too focused on the gnawing feeling in my chest, the tension in my limbs. I kept thinking about Mark and the way he had spoken that night, so sure of himself, so certain that Emma was always going to be his. His words echoed in my head like a warning, a reminder of what might slip through my fingers. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know. I had to confront Emma, even if it meant tearing open wounds that we had been trying to heal. I walked into the kitchen, where she was humming to herself, cleaning the dishes. She didn't even look up when I came in. "Emma," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She turned to me, her eyes flicking to mine for a brief moment before looking away. "Yeah," she replied, keeping her focus on the plates. "Is there anything you're not telling me?" I asked, my voice tight with emotion. "Anything about Mark, or us, or how you really feel?" Emma froze. She didn't respond right away, and the silence between us grew heavy. I could see her jaw tightening, her hands pausing mid-scrub. She took a deep breath and finally looked at me. "I've already told you everything," she said softly. "There's nothing left to say." But there was so much left unsaid. Her voice trembled slightly, and I could see the cracks forming. She wasn't as certain as she made herself out to be, and neither was I. I had been trying so hard to keep things together, to protect her, to hold on to something that was slipping through my fingers. But now, I couldn't pretend anymore. "Then why does it feel like you're hiding something?" I pressed, my voice a little louder this time. "Why does it feel like you're lying to me, Emma? I can't keep pretending like everything's fine when I know it's not." She put the dish down, her shoulders sagging in defeat. "David, I'm not lying to you. I don't know what you want from me. I don't know how to make this right." Her words hit me like a slap in the face. How to make this right? Was it that simple? Could we fix it just like that? The truth was, I didn't know. I didn't know how to rebuild what had been broken, or even if it could be fixed at all. I stepped closer to her, my heart pounding in my chest. "I want you to be honest with me, Emma. I want you to stop pretending. I want to know if you're still in love with me. Because right now, I'm not sure you even know what you want." She looked at me, her eyes brimming with tears. "I don't know either, David. I don't know what I want anymore. I love you, I really do. But Mark, he's always been there. And I've been so afraid of losing him, of losing that piece of myself. But I don't want to lose you too." I closed my eyes, trying to process her words, the raw emotion in her voice. Mark had always been there. And that realization hit me harder than anything else. She wasn't just struggling with her feelings for him, she was struggling with herself. "I don't want to compete with Mark, Emma," I said, my voice quieter now, tinged with hurt. "I don't want to be second place in your life. But it feels like I am, and I don't know how to fix that." She took a step toward me, her hand trembling as she reached out to touch mine. "I'm sorry. I never meant for you to feel like that. I never meant for you to feel like you're not enough." "You're right," I whispered, looking down at our hands. "I'm not enough if you're still holding on to him. I can't keep fighting for something that feels like it's already gone." Emma's breath hitched, and I saw the guilt in her eyes, the sorrow of someone who had never meant to hurt the person they loved most. But I didn't know if it was too late to fix this. The space between us had grown so vast, and every word I said felt like it made it wider. The days following our conversation were a blur of silent dinners and empty conversations. I could feel the walls closing in, and I couldn't tell if they were built by me or by Emma. She tried, she tried, but every attempt to reach me felt like a reminder of how far apart we had grown. She would ask if I was okay, but I wasn't. I wasn't even close. How could I be? I had always believed in us. I believed in what we had built, in the life we shared. But now, I wasn't sure if what we had was real, or if it had always been a fragile construct, held together by memories and hopes that were too easily shattered by one simple truth. Mark was never really out of the picture. He was always there, lurking in the background, a shadow that Emma had never fully let go of. That afternoon, I found myself staring at my phone. The screen lit up with a new message. It was from Mark. The subject line was blunt, almost daring. "We need to talk." I didn't even hesitate. I opened it, my heart racing as I read the words. "I know you've been talking to Emma." It started. "And I know things between you two aren't good right now. But I need you to understand something. Emma will never be happy with you. She's always going to wonder what could have been with me. I'm the one she really wants, and deep down you know it." I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. Mark wasn't just meddling in our marriage. He was trying to destroy it. He was trying to plant seeds of doubt in my mind, even after everything that had happened. And it worked. For a moment, I was paralyzed. The words from the message replayed in my mind like a broken record. "She'll always wonder what could have been with me." Could Mark be right? Was I really just a placeholder for someone she could never truly let go of? The anger that had been simmering inside me finally boiled over. I couldn't stand it anymore. I couldn't let this go on. I had to confront him, once and for all. I wasn't going to let him manipulate me or my marriage any longer. I grabbed my coat, stormed out of the house, and headed straight for the bar where Mark and I had spoken weeks ago. The bar was empty except for the bartender cleaning glasses. The tension in my chest was unbearable as I approached the table where Mark had been sitting the last time we met. I could feel the heat of the anger rising in me, and I was determined to get the truth out of him, to make him face what he had done. Mark was there, just like I had expected. He looked up when I approached, his expression unreadable. "You," I spat, my voice low but trembling with fury. "You've been messing with my marriage long enough." He didn't smile this time. His face was serious, almost cold. "David," he said in that patronizing tone, "I didn't want to do this, but you're making it impossible for me to stay quiet. You're the one who's been keeping her from me. You've always been second best. You can't hold on to something that's never really yours." My fist clenched. I could feel the rage in my veins, but this time I wasn't going to hold back. "You're a damn liar, Mark. You've been toying with her emotions, trying to manipulate her for years. But not anymore. Not while I'm still breathing." I stepped closer, my voice shaking but firm. "You can't have her, Mark. Not now. Not ever. She chose me, and that's the end of it. I'm not going to stand here and let you tear my life apart, because you can't let go of the past. You're not welcome in my life, and you never will be again." He stood up, a sneer spreading across his face. "You really think this is over? You really think she's going to stay with you when she knows I'm the one she's always wanted?" "Shut up," I growled. "You've had your chance, Mark. It's over. You lost." We stood there for a moment, the silence thick between us. I knew what I had to do next, even if it wasn't going to be easy. I took out my phone and dialed Emma's number. "Emma," I said when she picked up. My voice was steady now, despite the storm raging inside me. "I'm done. I'm done letting him control this. I'm done with the lies, and I'm done with the doubts. It's you and me, Emma. I need you to choose me. I need you to choose us. No more Mark. No more lies." There was a pause on the other end of the line. I could hear her breathing, soft and hesitant. Then she spoke, her voice barely audible, but filled with emotion. "I've already chosen you, David," she said, her words thick with regret. "I've always chosen you, but I've been so scared of losing him, of losing everything I've known for so long. But you're right, I can't keep living in the past." The weight in my chest began to lift just slightly. It wasn't over yet, not by a long shot, but hearing her say those words, it was enough to make me believe that maybe, just maybe, we could still fix this. "Then let's fix this," I said, my voice softer now, calmer. Together. The next few days felt like an uneasy calm after a storm. Emma and I had talked, truly talked, for the first time in what felt like forever. She was raw with emotion, and I could see the guilt in her eyes, the weight of all the years she had spent caught between me and Mark. But something had shifted. I could feel it in the way she held my hand, the way she looked at me like she finally saw me, not as a placeholder, not as someone to settle for, but as the man she truly wanted. And that, in itself, was a fragile beginning. We spent hours talking about everything, about our past, the insecurities we both carried, the mistakes we had made. We talked about Mark, and about how Emma had let his presence in her life become a wedge between us. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. We both needed to hear the truth, to lay everything out in the open. No more secrets, no more pretending. It was painful, but I could see the path forward now. The question was, could we walk it together? I asked Emma if she was ready to cut Mark out of our lives completely. She hesitated for only a moment before nodding, and I could tell it wasn't just about ending a friendship. It was about reclaiming her own life, the life we had built. She was finally ready to make that choice, not for me, but for herself. "I don't want to lose you, David," she whispered as we sat together on the couch that night, her head resting on my shoulder. "I don't want to keep holding on to someone who was never really there for me in the way you are. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything." And for the first time in weeks, I believed her. I believed she was truly sorry, and I believed she wanted to change. The next day, Emma called Mark. I didn't ask for the details of the conversation, but I didn't need to. I knew she had told him that our marriage had to come first, and that he could no longer be a part of her life. She had set the boundary, something she had struggled to do before. But now, she had done it. We had done it. Together. I couldn't pretend everything was fixed. I knew that much. Trust is not something that can be rebuilt overnight. There would still be moments of doubt, moments where we both wondered if we could ever truly move past the damage that had been done. But there was hope. And that, in itself, was enough for me to hold on. The following weeks were full of small, deliberate changes. We went to couples therapy, not because we were broken beyond repair, but because we needed to learn how to communicate better, how to build a stronger foundation. Emma was committed to making things right, and I was committed to seeing it through. We worked on rebuilding our relationship one step at a time, one conversation at a time. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't quick, but we were moving forward. And then, one evening, as we were sitting on the balcony of our apartment, watching the sunset together, Emma turned to me with a smile I hadn't seen in a long time. "I love you, David," she said, her voice soft but full of conviction. "I choose you. I've always chosen you. And I'm never letting go of that." For the first time in a long time, I felt the weight in my chest lift. It wasn't just the words she spoke, but the sincerity behind them. The way she said it, the way she looked at me. It was the truth I had been waiting to hear, the truth I had needed to hear. "I love you too, Emma," I replied, my voice thick with emotion. "And I'm not going anywhere." And in that moment I realized that we had both made a choice. A choice to fight for our marriage, to fight for each other. The road ahead wouldn't always be smooth. There would be bumps, there would be scars. But we had each other, and that was enough.